Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to Mod Extra Games and Collectibles, and it is time for another action figure review here on the channel. And as you can see on the screen right now, today's installment is going to be the Marvel Legends X-Men 97 Nightcrawler figure. So stick around, I'm going to take you through an unboxing of the figure, sharing the packaging and my first instinctual reaction to Nightcrawler when I took him out the packaging, and then I'm going to give you some review thoughts on his aesthetic, on his articulation, and on his accessory selection. So it's my hope that if you're out there and you're thinking, oh, do I fancy one of these Nightcrawlers of my own, my review today will help you make your mind up, because I'll give you all the ups and downs, ins and outs, a thorough look at the Nightcrawler figure from the X-Men 97 Wave 2. All right, well, let's not dilly-dally around, let's get into it, and let's go back in time and see past Chris unbox Nightcrawler for the very first time. All right, let's take a close look at the packaging and everything then. So here's Nightcrawler in the card back. Lovely bit of animated style artwork across the left-hand side there. Marvel Studios X-Men, the characters in the corner, then the obviously the blister bubble with the figure and the wealth, he says, sarcastically, of accessories with the fig. Then on the back, digital render of the figure, the other characters available in this particular wave, legal bollocks and malarkey across the bottom, and, well, that's it with the card backed figure. Not a lot else to speak of, really. Right then, I'm just going to unceremoniously rip this from the bottom here, like an absolute psycho. There we go. No, didn't manage to do it in one single pull, though. There we are, and then we'll drop Nightcrawler out like that. Oh, there's the paperwork. I've torn that open in such a way I don't actually know how I'm going to record the intro now. Anyway, here we go. Here's Nightcrawler with a head swap and a couple of hand swaps here that are taped in. There we are. Pop those loose, get the hands out. And then, of course, the figure. Is that tail woven through? No, it's not. There we are. And here we go. Here is Nightcrawler released from his plastic prison. So I'm going to go away, get some man-child playtime in, get hands-on with the figure, gather some review thoughts, and I'll be back in a couple of days to share those with you. So stick around. Future Chris is going to be with you in 3, 2, 1... All right, let's get started with the review section of the video now then, and I'm going to begin with the first of my three review A's, which is aesthetic. I'm going to talk about the visual experience I've had with Nightcrawler, and beginning with a kind of whole body overall view of the Nightcrawler figure standing here. I'm very pleased to say that it's good, classic, you know, OG Giant X-Men #1 uniform design, which I'm really pleased with. It means that aesthetically, aside from a few notes about maybe the face sculpt, but I'll get to that in a minute, he is a solid figure, whether you want it for an animated line, which of course he belongs to, the animated X-Men 97 wave, if you want it for animated style X-Men, or you want to cross-purpose it into comic book style X-Men, because the uniform is almost identical to the to that classic look. And I know he's had a few kind of variations of that look over the years, but this is the one that when you shut your eyes and you think back to classic Nightcrawler, this is what you see. So very pleased to see the red, black and white uniform on him, the jumpsuit type thing. Very pleased to see the white gloves with the red trimmings on them and stuff, all those little details that are tried and tested and true with good, solid, classic look Nightcrawler. And the colours are decent. They're a little bit more brighter and a bit more vivid because it's an animated line. But again, I don't mind that. And I think it can be cross-purposed into comic book display uses, because he had very vivid colours. It was a very vivid red, for example, in that original look. So the full head-to-toe overall eyeball experience is pretty damn good, I think, and pretty solid. Bringing Nightcrawler a little bit closer to the camera there so we can conduct a closer inspection of the head sculpt here. You'll see that the blue skin tone is pretty nice. It's actually a little touch darker than it's coming out on the camera. My lighting here on my little lightbox stage is making it seem a little bit brighter than it is. But still, it's fairly vivid. It's a kind of vivid sort of blue. We've got some lovely touches there. The facial features are well sculpted. There's some paint applications to give the face sculpt a little bit of extra life and depth, such as the yellow eyes and then the sort of shadowy thing over his forehead and breaking out across his cheeks. I think that might be a kind of animated cell shading effect that they've gone for there. But it works because to me it looks more kind of like a shadowy Nightcrawler post-Banff kind of look, and so I don't actually consider it sort of cell shading, particularly because the rest of the uniform's not got any cell shading on it. It's just a nice little kind of shadowy effect. So good face sculpt with good definition in the features, good paint applications applied, and I really love the sculpting detail in the hairdo there and this lovely kind of blue dusty dry brush thing that they've done across the detail of the hair to again give it some more depth, a bit more life, and also to make it feel a bit more kind of character accurate. I suppose if anything, if you're talking about kind of comic book accuracy versus animated series accuracy, the hair is probably the main focus of what drew my attention, because it feels a little bit bigger and swooshier and more animated in style. My like picture of Nightcrawler from the comic books is it's a little bit more of a tighter, neater kind of haircut, but it still looks cool. I'm really into it. So big win for me on the head sculpt, absolutely. Despite the weird cell shading shadow effect, I think it adds something. Now, one thing I've been known to criticise Marvel Legends for in the past is when things like gloves and boots are painted onto the figure. I find it a little bit frustrating when we've got, elbow-high gloves or kind of fancy boots that are then just taken on a standard sort of skin tight spandex book and then painted on to bring the detail in. But thankfully that is not the case with Nightcrawler. You can see on the gloves here that they're actually sculpted into the shape of the body, and the paint applications are then applied to the sculpted sections of the glove. So if you run your finger over it, you can feel the groove in there between the red and the white, and the groove in there between the red and the black. That's the same with the boots as well. If I just lift him up there and bring him a bit closer so it's in focus, you can see that it's sculpted into the shape of the body there. That really just gives the figure a better feel of kind of 3 dimensions, gives it much more depth, much more texture, and brings it to life way more for me. So I'm really pleased to see that, especially on an animated figure. You'd think if anything was going to be painted onto a standard spandex book, it would be animated figure stuff, but that is not the case with this one, and that's really awesome. I'm really into that. Other key elements of the Nightcrawler visual identity are present and correct. So the tail is obviously there. It's well sculpted with the little kind of devilish forky point on the end there. You can see a little bit of detail, a bit of contour shaping in there to bring it to life. The colour tone of the tail is a good blue colour match to the colour tone of the face as well, so it doesn't stand out like a little clash, a faux pas clash. So that's good to see. I'll talk about how that articulates in the articulation section, but it's got a nice bit of dynamic energy to it as well, with the way that it's sort of curved and swoopy, and it's got a little bit of life and feels organic. Part of a person rather than being a thing. Which is really nice to see. And then, of course, you've got the classic Nightcrawler 3-fingered hands and the 3-toed feet as well, all present and correct, well sculpted, nice sculpting detail on them that bring the visual identity further to life and keeps it more in line both with the cartoon and the comic book representations of Nightcrawler. Speaking of colour matches stroke colour clashes, you can see that there is a bit of a difference between the reds on the uniform. So this top shoulder piece with the classic Nightcrawler pointy red shoulder pads has got a slightly different, more matte feel to it compared to the glossier, shinier red that's in the stripe across the front of his uniform, which is then, again, a slightly different shade of red in the trimmings on the boots and the gloves. It's not too egregious. It certainly doesn't affect the overall experience and pleasure you get from the eyeball experience with the character. But once you've kind of clocked it, it does stand out. That moment where your top body piece meets the shiny stripe at the front there just stands out a little bit. You can see in the lights, in fact, it makes it really stand out. You can see how much it's reflecting more down here than it is up here. And that's about it, really, in terms of the aesthetic experience. I'm pleased with it. I'm enjoying it. The classic look uniform, tick. Good blues, reds and whites, tick. A few minor niggles, sure, but overall, it's a big thumbs up. What more is there to say? It's a Nightcrawler. You look at it and you go, that's a good classic Nightcrawler, and therefore no complaints on this front. I've very much enjoyed the look of the figure. So that's the aesthetic section. Right, okay, let's now talk a little bit about Nightcrawler's articulation, shall we? So I'll get started up top here with the head. I mean, overall, it's a fairly standard Marvel Legends articulation. There are a couple of omissions, actually, that I want to talk about, but overall, it's pretty standard Marvel Legends articulation. But starting at the head, it's the hinge in the neck there, with the ball at the top, which gives you really good down, really good back. You got your full 360 spin, and you can sort of tilt it around a bit on the ball at the top there. Really useful range of articulation. Nothing around the neck obstructing that. So your more kind of acrobatic Nightcrawler type poses can be achieved with the figure with little fuss. It's pretty decent. Yeah, very happy with that. Then moving further down into the shoulders, you can see underneath his shoulder pads here, there's a butterfly joint in there, giving you some forward and back motion. It has got full 360, but obviously the direction of the 360 at the armpit there is impacted by and obstructed by this shoulder pad piece. And as you can see, the hinges go above and beyond the Call of Duty, over the T and into nearly a Y. Then we've got a cut here at the top of the bicep and tricep, giving you some swivel at the top there. Lovely pinless elbows, double jointed, which will get you up to there. And the hands are pegged in, giving you a full 360 all the way around. And you can see there, both hands, the right and the left, have got the in and out hinge on them. Again, with a really great range of motion on that. Coming down into the torso, we've got the ab crunch there. Again, gives a really good range of motion forward, gives a good range of motion back. And the ab crunch is quite nicely sort of disguised and obscured into the sculpt of the body as well. So the use of that has less of an impact on the visual experience too, which is nice to see. In fact, you have to go really far back to find his six-pack disappearing at the top there. Standard Marvel Legends swivel cut in the middle here. I'm not the biggest fan of the swivel cut. I find it uncanny valley here when you start getting these little kind of bits sticking out over the sides. But it's the standard way they do it, and that's what all their figures are. I'd much rather a ball in there, but you can go all the way around. Look, if you were so inclined. Hinge in the groin, giving you really good forward. And Nightcrawler is a limber individual. You can see he can get out on the Russian ballet splits. Whoop. Then we've got a thigh cut at the top of the thigh there, giving you some swivel. Lovely pinless double knee, which will get you up to there. And then a hinge and rocker on the feet here, giving you really a massive range forward and back, comparable to other figures with kind of standard human feet or boots, and a big range on the rocker as well. Then you've got the tail in the back here. It doesn't have a great deal of motion back and forward other than sort of flexing the more rubbery plastic feel of the tail, but it does do a full 360 swing round like so. So I mentioned right at the beginning of this section that I felt that there was a couple of articulation omissions, and it's mostly down here on the bottom part of the leg. There's no boot cut on Nightcrawler, and this is an instance where I think it's a figure that would have benefited from a toe hinge. Now I suspect the toe hinge and the boot cut are absent for practical reasons because of the nature of the boot design, the top of the boot design there, and because of the unique foot design. So budgetary thing, engineering thing, that's probably why it's not there. But what that has meant is that when it's come to articulating the figure, there's been some very kind of classic Nightcrawler style poses, that crouchy type stuff that I've been trying to do with him that I just haven't been able to do because that extra little bit of articulation and posability that a boot cut and a toe hinge would have given me is absent, and therefore it doesn't exist. So if you want to try and get Nightcrawler like really kind of crouched down into a kind of post Banff kind of thing, that's about as far as you can get, and it's a bit fiddly and fidgety in regards to the kind of balance, the center of the center of balance there. So it's all right. It's decent enough, but I feel like I could have done with just a little bit of extra maneuverability down here to take it to the next level. That said, it's standard Marvel Legends kind of stuff. It's certainly not massively egregious, so I'm still going to give it a tentative thumbs up, but I'm kind of floating into the middle because I have a personal preference to wanting a bit more movement down here. So there you go. There's articulation. Let's now take a look at his accessory selection. And the first item on the accessory agenda is the head swap. I popped it on the figure there. It's a standard, ball peg, pop it off, pop it on situation. And this one here, you can see there's a little bit more teeth on show, bit more of a grimace, bit more serious compared to, in fact, if I get the other one here and hold it up next, there you go. You can sort of see the difference there. So while the main one, as he comes out of packaging, has got a little bit of a cheeky smirk, a little bit slightly more light-hearted sort of tone to it, the head swap there has got a bit more of a serious, more grimacing kind of tone to it. Just the same as the main one. It's solid features, well sculpted, the little flash of teeth in there and the grimace, it's communicating the story. You're getting the narrative of what's going on with both the head sculpts there. So they're suitable for two types of different situations. The hair is as well sculpted. It's got that lovely kind of light blue dry brush thing through it. No complaints about the head swap, and can obviously see why you got the two options there. It suits two different purposes. It might have been nice to see, if I remember rightly, the Wendigo wave one had a full-on Nightcrawler comic book character cheeky smile, which they've elected not to include with this figure. So it might have been nice to have that, but two head sculpts is better than one. And then next up on the accessory selection, you can see you've got a set of closed fist hand swaps there. Well sculpted. They look a little small to me. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like they look slightly small in proportion to the to the rest of the figure. But you have them closed fist, obviously a nice classic hand position for battling superhero mutants who have to get into fist fights all the time. You can see that both of these have also got the forward and back hinge there, giving you a bit of a range of motion inwards and outwards as well. Well sculpted, good definition. Yeah, they're decent hand sculpts, and I can see a place for them again in your kind of posing, your narrative storytelling type stuff that you would be doing with the figure, so that's fine. So the accessory selection is, all right. It's typically Marvel Legends sparse, couple of hands and a head swap, and that's it. There are some notable things that you're not getting with Nightcrawler. Obviously, the classic cutlass, although in Marvel Legends defense, in the cartoon episode of X-Men 97 that Nightcrawler has appeared in so far, as of date recording, he didn't have his sword with him, even though that's a classic part of his character's identity and weaponry selection from the comic books. But, obviously, they're drawing inspiration from the cartoon there, or a much... like a super smiley head sculpt is absent. So yeah, it's just typically Marvel Legends sparse. Thankfully, it doesn't carry a animated VHS box price tag with it, with the limited selection of accessories. But what you do get does allow you to do a bit of storytelling with your figure. It does open up the options with what you do with them. So it's all right. I'm going to give it a tentative thumbs up. I can work with it. I've used them both heads and all hands in the variety of things I've been doing while I've been man-child playing with the character. I always want more. Who doesn't? We want more accessories. It helps us play, helps us storytell, helps us take photographs, so just give us more. I'm always going to say I want more in this section. I should stop really, but there you go, there's accessories for you. All right, folks, quick figure comparison time. I'll throw one in for you on this video today. Here's the X-Men 97 Wave 2 Nightcrawler with the X-Men 97 Wave 1 Bishop. And I think these two next to each other kind of really illustrate that distinction between a heavy animated style aesthetic, which I feel is the vibe Bishop's giving up, compared to Nightcrawler, which is just a generic use applicable across whatever type of display, whatever type of area of X-Men collecting you're doing. I think you can sort of see the distinction between the two there quite strongly, actually. Here's Nightcrawler with a kind of mainline retro card back Gambit. Never forget, folks. Never forget. But I think they look pretty good together. You can see that how the aesthetic, the visual experience of Nightcrawler ties in well with the more classic kind of comic book mainline style figures that they put out from Marvel Legends there. Little sneaky Easter egg spoiler of an upcoming review in this shot as well. Here's Nightcrawler with Bezzy Mate Wolverine. This is from the X-Men VHS animated series line with the cell shading effects on it, so you can kind of see how they sit together and compare. And I'm going to have to reapply some heat to these claws. Look, they've gone all squishy again. And here he is with Mommy Dearest, because, it's his mum. All right, folks, well, here's Nightcrawler making his way around on the turntable. This is a kind of bit of a pose that I sort of positioned him in last night. Although, actually, I have to admit, I had him on a flight stand. I had him on this, doing a post-teleport look. Actually, I didn't mention that when I talked about the accessories. One of the omissions is a bit of a poofy purple bamf thing. That would have been awesome. But there you go. Anyway, I can't re-return to other sections of the video. But yeah, here he is. This is the pose I settled on. I tend to find myself of late putting my X-Men in what I like to call the kind of comic cover, oh shit, there's a Sentinel type poses, which is what I've got Nightcrawler in right now. And as far as final thoughts go, yeah, it's a good figure. I'm happy with it. The criticisms of Nightcrawler are really largely just Marvel Legends line related criticisms. Not enough accessories, the central waist swivel, a few corner cutting pieces around things like articulation because of budget or practical engineering considerations that they're not worked through. But overall, he fits in really well with the rest of the X-Men. He works in both X-Men 97 stuff, he works with VHS animated stuff, and he's worked with stuff out of my comic book related collection. So overall, I'm happy. Yeah, I think it's a good, solid figure. It's just a good classic A-list X-Men character that everybody needs one version of in their collection. And this is a good one to use, absolutely, and certainly more cost effective than trying to get the Wendigo wave one on the secondary market. So yeah, Nightcrawler is a good pickup, and it's a Mod Extra recommends, despite the fact that 2 of my 3As came with a tentative thumbs up. So there we go. All right, folks, well, I hope you found that useful. If you are thinking about picking up a Nightcrawler, then hopefully these thoughts I've shared today will help you make up your mind. If you have enjoyed the video, do the thumbs up thing. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. You know, all the YouTubey stuff. I won't give you the spiel today, but I'd appreciate it if you could do all that good stuff to help the channel out. And I hope you have a great day. Look forward to seeing you around these parts again sometime soon. All right, take it easy. Oh, damn it. I can never get the timing right so the character's facing forward when I finish my little bit of script there at the end. Hashtag shit YouTuber. See you later, folks. Ta-ra.